I was 5 years old when I first realized that I could travel to any place I wanted to just by using my mind. Sounds crazy, I know. But I'm talking about whether it was fighting aliens on Mars, solving mysteries with Scooby-Doo in the game, or even getting my groove on down the Soul Train line. Yes, I'm telling my age. But I was able to be in my room for hours and hours and hours, just being the source of my own entertainment. It was cool. The fact that I could create new stories, with new characters and new storylines and plots in different places, all without ever leaving the physical space that I was in. I would later learn in life that what I was doing was dissociating. But to this 5-year-old kid, it was my superpower, and you couldn't tell me nothing. Little did I know that that superpower would soon come to my rescue just one short year later. There was a man in our neighborhood who ran a, for lack of a better phrase, junk food store out the back of his house.
Candy house.
The Candy Man. Thank you. Very well liked in the community, loved by us kids because candy. And he was just a cool dude, got along with us so well. And without fail, I would go to his house every day after school with my 50 cents in tow so that I could load up on as much sugary goodness as I could before my mama got home from work. He had everything, and it was awesome. So there'd be a few times where a bunch of us kids would be there, and he would tell us stories about things that he did in his life, places he had visited. And one in particular that stands out was when he told me about his time he went to Hershey, Pennsylvania, where he was able to visit the Hershey chocolate factory. I said, this dude is the real-life Black Willy Wonka. We were hooked on every single word. He was so good at telling stories. And we would just be sitting there just eating it all up. It was great. One day in particular, I was there by myself. No other kids were there, so I guess I was early, I don't know. But I had so many questions about why he decided to sell candy and why did he do what he did and where did he went. I was just so inquisitive. And he answered every one. And he said, come on back. I'll show you I'll show you how I do it, You can look at my inventory, just check it out. Yeah, I'm there, I'm going. So I ran around the back. Now his door was one of those double doors where you can open it and just the top opens, the bottom stays closed. That's how he conducted his business. But this time, he opened the whole door. So I thought I had a VIP all access pass to this chocolate factory. So I walked in, bold, happy, just giddy as all get out. And when I tell you, I walked in and the first thing I did was just go. There was so much junk food everywhere. From this side of the aisle, it was all chocolate candy. Y'all know the drill. The whatchamacallits, the Mars bars, the Snickers, the Chico sticks. I'm really dating myself. The Fun Dips, the Skittles, the Laffy Taffies. In the middle was the chips. Okay, speaking of chips, we're gonna have a little break here. How many of you guys remember chili Fritos?
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about that generic stuff, processed stuff they're doing now. Yes, ma'am. This dude would open a bag of Fritos corn chips, put 2 heaping scoops of chili in there, and Lord, if he's feeling randy, he would put some cheese and onions in there, put a plastic spoon in there, and you would just eat it right out of the bag. It was bliss. The best 75 cents I would ever spend. Of course, in today's economy, that'd be $6,452. But I digress. So, as I'm standing there, he's like, well, why don't you help me count? Oh my goodness, are you serious? You want me to help you count the candy? Absolutely. So I'm getting out the boxes, I'm going through, and I yell out, oh, there's 15 in this box. Oh, that one's too low. Take some out of this box, put it in there. So I'm helping him organize his inventory. Very fun. But in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, oh, I need to get home. Because if my mom comes home and I'm not there, it's going to be a problem. So I told him, I gotta go. Okay, I thank you so much for your help. And here's something for your troubles. And he gives me not one, but 2 Hershey's candy bars. Man, I was hooked. And he said, you know what? You can come back Saturday and we can do some more. That Saturday could not get here fast enough. Woke up early Saturday morning, did my chores. My mom was already gone to work. Then I decided to scurry over to his house. I go to the back door. I knock as usual. He opens the door. And the first thing I notice, he's dressed differently. He's got on this long sleeve shirt. And this is the 70s, so this is when the butterfly collar was a thing, so the collar was out of here. So, and you had the 2 buttons unbuttoned. And he had a gold chain on with a medallion. I thought it was strange, and I said, maybe he's going somewhere afterwards, out of sight, out of mind. So I go up the stairs as normal, and now I'm walking in and I notice the shades are down. Very dimly lit. Kind of hard to count candy when you can't see. He had a dim light on in the corner, but it was just giving off a very faint hue. Didn't do much to light the room. So again, I'm feeling a little uneasy, but he said he's my friend, I trust him, we share stories. He even told me I'm one of his best friends. To his left, there was an old tattered leather chair. It'd seen some days. So in the middle of the cushion, there was a slit. And some of the cushion was coming up. So he goes and he has a seat. And I'm still standing there. And he says, come on over, come talk to me. Now, the spider sense is really tingling. Feeling uncomfortable because I don't know what this is. I'm just here to count the candy, but I trust him. He told me he would never do anything to hurt me, so I'm gonna come over and talk. So I walked to his side. It's not what I came here for, but I'm still telling myself, I trust him. I trust him. You're such a pretty girl. You're so pretty. I'm stiff. He then proceeds to lean in, put his lips on mine, and I gasped for air. And I closed my eyes so tight. And in that moment, everything went mute. Couldn't hear a thing. It was like I was encapsulated into some bubble or just someplace thick and warm. I couldn't hear nothing, couldn't see nothing. My eyes were so tight. Then it started to feel like I was floating. Kind of like buoyant, like a bobbing buoy inside the ocean. You've seen it just bobbing back and forth. That's what it kind of felt like. And then I felt myself kind of sinking. As my eyes are still closed and I'm in this, wherever I was, vision started getting clearer. And I noticed that I was sitting in the bottom of a pool, swimming pool. I could look to my left, and I could look to my right and see the edge of each. I could look up and I could see the trees on either side, flanking the pool. I could look up and I can see the sun's rays coming through the water. So peaceful. So peaceful. I felt safe, secure. Not soon after, I started to hear a faint voice of a woman singing. Somewhere over the rainbow, way up high, there's a land that I've heard of once in It's my favorite movie. Dorothy's here in my safe little bubble. I heard her voice, so beautiful. And then it became a little more harsh. And then it turned into a man's voice, saying my name very sternly. Stacy, Stacy, Stacy. And I'm back in the room. And I'm back on his lap. That medallion sitting on my forehead. His cologne that reeked of roses and roach spray. Filling my nostrils, my heart beating almost out of my chest. He frantically says, I've been calling you, I've been calling you. You didn't answer. I was worried. Picks me up by my arms and plants me firmly on the ground on my 2 feet. And that's when I noticed he's pulling my pants. He was straightening up my shirt, fixing my hair. And he says, you gotta go. You have to go. He gets up, he walks over, and he gets some ice cream. And he hands it to me, sends me on my way. I don't know if I was walking, floating, flying, but I made my way around the corner, down his driveway, into the front where the gate was, and as I looked up, my little sister standing right there waiting for me, with the most hateful look on her face. My heart stopped. Where have you been? What have you been doing? What were you doing in there? I didn't know what to say. I didn't want to tell on my friend because we couldn't be friends anymore if I said that. But I also didn't want to lie. What do I do? So I just told her I was in there to count candy. She yanks me by the arm, she drags me home, straight into the bedroom where my mother was waiting. I was standing at the foot of the bed. My mother's sitting up in the bed. She's tired, she just got home. She asked me, where were you? What were you doing? Now I know what this man told me. I know what he told me, that to not say anything. But this is my mother. I can't lie to my mother, even if I tried. So I had to stand there and tell my mother that that man put his hands on me, that he touched me, that he kissed me. And I can still hear my mother's howl. My sister comes and stands next to me and she says, look what you did to Mom. You broke her. My mother tried to ask me some questions. I didn't know what to say. I was still I didn't know if this was dream, reality. I did not know what to say or how to articulate what had been done to me. And all that she could muster up at the end was, just go. Just go. I went into my room and I collapsed on the floor and I just cried my eyes out. As you can imagine, a couple of days later, I had to go to the police station to answer some questions. I now know that I had to go through a forensic analysis. In this room, there was just a table, 2 chairs, this woman and a naked doll. Social worker, I would later learn. She was mean. Mean. So now I have to tell this story again. Short time after that, there was actually a trial. Now I have to sit next to a judge in front of an audience full of people that I don't know to try to tell them what happened to me with him sitting right there. I would soon find out later, after the trial, that my father, who, by the way, was a pastor, he opted for probation for this man. In his mind, he felt that God's judgment would go such a long way than man's. He let a known predator go on, virtually unscathed. Because he was well known in our community, he had a reputation to keep. And the idea of his 6-year-old daughter being sexually assaulted just wasn't a good look. What he did do, however, was suggest that I get baptized to wash the sin away. That service was the hardest thing I ever had to go through because I became the spectacle again, this time before the eyes of God. My dad said the whole spiel, I baptize you in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. Dunked me. This time I was really underwater, but I didn't feel safe. It's been said that, obviously when you get baptized, you're supposed to come up and you're made whole. You're supposed to feel better, right? I felt numb. The emotional damage had been done. Core messaging was now downloaded into my spirit. That core messaging, it was my fault. I must have deserved what happened to me. I broke my family. And even God thinks that I'm bad.
Now that you've heard my story, I would like you to take a moment and connect with your reactions and the feelings associated with them. What did you feel? Were you shocked, horrified, or outraged? Were you triggered? Were you moved to tears? Or were you indifferent? Did you find yourself wondering, well, if you felt so uncomfortable, why didn't you just leave? Those reactions that showed up inside you are the precise reasons why we have such a hard time telling our truth. Because we're so afraid of what other people will say or think about us. We're guilty in the court of public opinion long before the words ever leave our lips. So why bother, right? So it should come as no surprise that we do whatever it takes to distance ourselves from our truth. In a sense, we've created our own Lifetime movie special. We've become the directors, the writers, the producers. We're clearly the main actor. But the most dangerous role that we have taken on is that of editor-in-chief. Going line by line, taking out what's good and what's not good in our stories. Sometimes we indulge and embellish in order to make it more interesting. Other times we'll redact whole sections of our truth, or replace it with something else that seems less threatening. But even worse, sometimes we will just omit the entire thing and pretend it never happened. How did we get here? How did we get to a place where something as organic and natural as truth-telling has become so hard to do? It truly is the thing that we fear most. We're so desperate to hide our truth, and it comes at such a high price. Truth-telling requires vulnerability. It requires transparency, honesty, and self-awareness. And it's far different than confessing. Truth-telling requires full awareness that something awful has happened to you. You had to really put in some thought, some introspection, some deep diving to get to that place that you're ready to tell your truth. Confessing, on the other hand, that's an admission that you did a thing. You're owning up to something, and it usually involves some type of judgment or punishment at the end. What we have done is convinced ourselves that truth-telling is an admission of guilt. And that is when blame and shame enters the chat. And that is why we would much rather go our entire life stifling our truth than to endure a few moments of discomfort. Look, it is way past time for us to eliminate this fear of truth-telling. We have to remember that once the words leave our lips, we have no control over how they are received. We cannot control anyone's reaction. But here's the thing, regardless of how they react, it doesn't make what we say untrue. And it doesn't make it any less important. You all have heard my story. And this is the first time that I'm actually saying this out loud in public. I'm officially addressing the elephant in my room. I can only imagine your reactions to what I was saying. The pearl clutching, the gasping, the disbelief. But you know what? It didn't break me. I'm free. But best of all, so is little Stacy. I am so glad that I was able to give her the best gift that I possibly could, and that is the gift of her truth. Aren't you tired? Aren't you tired of walking on eggshells, masking what's going on inside? Aren't you tired of people pleasing? Putting up with behaviors that you know you shouldn't? Aren't you tired of being in relationships with emotionally unavailable people? Because what they're doing is amplifying that message that I'm not good enough. Aren't you tired? Tired of the emotional roller coaster that you've been on since that thing happened to you? I definitely know your body's tired. The hypertension, the stress hormones pulsing through your veins. If you can imagine what it would be like to have your thumb permanently pressed on your cortisol, which is the stress hormone, button, just constantly, for years and years and years. Imagine what that's doing to your body. Women, aren't you tired of that digestive problem that you're having? I bet you there's a story tied to it. Men, aren't you tired of being angry and not really understanding why? I'm certain there's a story attached to that too. So what are you going to do now? Are you going to finally give yourself permission to unpack your truth? Is today the day that you become intentional about healing yourself? I sure hope so. If I am the first person to say this to you, then so be it. I believe you. You owe it to yourself to free yourself. Because when you know better, you heal better. Tell the truth.